use feedback as a sound effect to enhance a song, to enhance the power of a song. A few bands of the 60s had tried it before. The Beatles had used it on I Feel Fine. The Kinks had experimented with it as well. Johnny Kidd and the Pirates, all sorts of bands had tried it. But they never used it as a feature of a song, actually used it as a solo, almost. And how he did this basically was he used the guitar almost like a weapon. He would shake it, he would drag his plectrum along the strings, he would hold the guitar against the speaker of his amplifier, and the guitar would feedback violently, very loud. But then he came up with this idea to switch between the feedback sound and silence.
Anyway, Anyhow, Anywhere became another chart success, and as the group's popularity began to grow, they prepared for what would become their most successful singles so far. However, relationships within the band were beginning to unravel.
Despite all the best efforts of the management, and despite the fact they had a very innovative, original and exciting concept on their hands, there was trouble brewing. There was undercurrents within the band which kind of threatened its very existence. There was a fear that the Who might implode. And what was the cause of the problem, really? It was a kind of power struggle between Townsend and Daltrey, because the band had obviously, as we remember, started out as the Detours. It was Roger's baby originally. It's his group. And of course, people didn't realise that when the Who became famous and were having hit singles and appearing regularly on TV, and people tended to see Pete as the leader already because he was the songwriter. So occasionally I think Roger kind of reverted back to his street fighting roots, really. I think it reached the point where the band and the management were saying, well, for God's sake, if Roger's going to carry on like this, every time we have a row, he's going to hit out, maybe we better fire the singer. It seemed unbelievable. And in fact, when Melody Maker and other music papers reported this kind of split and the possibility that the group might actually break up because Roger had been fired, there were screams of panic, of course, and the management rushed into print to say it's all nonsense and lies, but in fact I think Roger had actually been fired at one point. The group was on the verge of splitting up, despite all the denials. And then I think Roger went away. I think he slept in his own car for a while. He went through a bit of a crisis. He went off to mull over what was happening, and he thought about it. He thought, do I really want to give away this group, even if it means coming to an accommodation with the other guys, and realising it was a team, and it was his best bet really in life, because whatever he did afterwards, it would never have the same impact or excitement as The Who.
With the band reunited, the single My Generation was released on November the 27th, 1965, and has since become an anthem for the 1960s and youth rebellion.
What made My Generation one of the classics of the 60s and a so-called anthem? A very good question. I think in some ways the lyrics sort of reflected what the rebellious times were all about. We were all coming out of periods of post-war and post-depression, and there was a whole group of kids, me included, who were looking to do something new, and that's everything we did was really breaking the mold, because nothing had really existed of what we were trying to do before we did it. So I think this is, again, one of those songs. It expressed the feelings of the time.
Roger Daltrey stutters on the words because that's his way of expressing the inarticulateness of youth. This is why he's stuttering, because and there's also an idea that he's blocked, that he's on pills. So when you're on pills, you do tend to stutter, apparently so.
One of the most interesting aspects of the tune, obviously, and the most high profile is Entwistle's bass solo, which again kind of sums up the essence of The Who, in as much as it's not rambling, it's not particularly egotistical and attention seeking. It does what it seeks to do, it punctuates the song.
My Generation, more than any of the other songs, certainly of that period, defines The Who. It almost defines that generation. People try to put us down talking about My Generation. There was a feeling of sort of, we're the kids, we're the new generation, we don't care what's gone before. We've grown up with rock and roll, we're taking it a step further. And of course it has one of the great lines, possibly the greatest line, or the most celebrated line that The Who ever wrote, I hope I die before I get old. At the time, I think it was a great statement about the way a lot of kids felt was, I'm not going to be old. I want to actually be exactly who I am. I want to be excited by the world, and if I can't be, that's why I want to die. And I think there was a certain misinterpretation of what Daltrey was saying, or what Townsend was saying, which wasn't, I'm going to kill myself before I'm 30. It was to ever lose the useful exuberance. If I ever become bored and stale with life, I don't want to live.
With 3 hit singles behind the group, they began to prepare for the release of their first LP, also named My Generation.
What's memorable about recording the My Generation album was just the fact that we were doing songs we wanted to do. I think all of us were having a good time. I certainly was, and it was great to hear what the results were. This was, for the time, a unique record. I think that's